Hello, everyone. It's Cassandra Williamson. I hope you can hear me. I haven't got all my gadgets hooked up. Yes, I'm coming to you from a holler in eastern Kentucky, and this is Midday with Cassandra. And I don't know about you, but this certainly feels like it's been a whole week's worth of Tuesdays, maybe even a month of Tuesdays. We've had a lot going on. The first thing I want to do is acknowledge that lost a dear friend and cousin yesterday, Wanda Clark Horton here in eastern Kentucky. She's the first cousin. I think she's in her early 80s, 82 or 83, somewhere right around there. She had a stroke back in the spring and it was getting steadily worse. So I just want to give my heartfelt hugs and thoughts for the family and her children and grandchildren and great grandchildren. So just a big hug to the family, wrap my arms around all of you. Um, Love you. And I know you'll get through this, but I'm there with you. So, update on mom. Her oxygen levels just went below 90, like 88, 87 yesterday. Went back to the ER. So she came home with oxygen now. So she has a machine and tanks and all that stuff here. Lots and lots of lethargy that she's dealing with. This morning I had to help her eat her breakfast and get the pills into her mouth and drinks and stuff like that. So she's slowing down a lot. It's really worrisome for her. I'm really concerned about my brother, who will never sit down, and I wouldn't want to see him ever sit down and just take a breath. But he can go a few minutes and has to stop and get his machine and oxygen out. um, let's see. It's been definitely a very, very long week of Tuesdays. So I did want to talk about some other topics, though. I had a friend of mine called this morning, someone I consider a friend, and one of the mentors, really, somebody who's been around in this community for a long, 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 long time, a veteran friend of mine. And she's founder of several different nonprofit organizations, or actually of one of the biggest transgender veteran organizations in the country. Specifically tailored for transgender veterans, the Transgender American Veterans Association. And Angela and her friend Monica Helms, they created TAVA, the TAVA organization, back in 2003, I believe. So they've been around a while, been doing this kind of thing for a long time, and their insights are definitely invaluable. They see things from a different perspective than most of us would. I didn't even acknowledge who I was until like 2009. It took a long, long time of studying and thinking and not connecting with anyone, reading about stuff and studying it all, and then beginning that process of acknowledging that, hey, it just so happens that my gender and sex aren't necessarily the same. I know what my biological sex is. I've known that since whatever. I've got a son out there. So you know where he got his Y gene from? He got it from me, of all people. But he certainly didn't get it from his mom. She has two X's, and I've got the X and the Y. So he picked up a Y from me. But biological sex, the genotypical type sex, is not the same thing as your gender. Gender has a foundation in the fetal flooding of the brain in the early, uh, well, the end of the second trimester and early parts of the third trimester in utero. But that lays the foundation for gender in the brain, and then that construct is kind of enforced and reinforced by what happens in the family and in the community and your churches and in your culture and things like that. But the gender and sex don't have to match, and I've had that conversation with people over here on my Twitter feeds and other feeds out here. They have this pretense of knowledge, and it's more like Dunning Kruger, but they actually kind of pretend to know what's going on, and in all reality, they know squat. They hide behind these fake names over here, and they accuse us of being the ones, of being the ones who are not acknowledging reality. I've had that happen so many times. I've got people out there going, it's just a matter of reality, and people are supporting reality. And Riley Gaines is just reinforcing this view of reality as we see it. And the people who are talking the most and loudest about it, well, Riley does too. And she knows she's wrong, but she does it because of her hatred for trans people who actually competed against her in sports. But no, that's another thing altogether. That she has a problem. Need some help, Riley. But we know these things. We've known this for a long time. But anyway, I get into these conversations with people and I really enjoy it. But the part that is actually disturbing to me is that so many people who get all up in arms about me being out and who I am, and they want to tell me that I'm the one not being real, but they're hiding behind a fake name. I mean, they don't have the courage of their own convictions. They're just hiding behind these things, and I think they're afraid to let people really know who they are because they have a sense of self-importance or something, and maybe they're trying to protect that, or maybe they don't want people to know who they are because they're afraid of being doxxed or something like that, called out for it, actually called out by name for these kind of things. Well, look, I am who I am 24/7. I'm not hiding about it. I have no reason to be ashamed of who I am. I'm not going to transition. I am not going to transition. I am not transitioning. I am where I am, and I'm happy with that. And it really doesn't matter what you think about it either. Does not matter at all. Your opinion has zero influence on who I am. Zero. You're going to say that's not accepting the reality. Reality. The thing is, you have a narrow view of reality because your view of reality requires me to accept your view that sex and gender are synonymous terms, and they're not. We left the Dalton model of the atom back in 1803. We've grown way up since then, folks. We know more. We've learned more. Jefferson even talked about that we knew more, we know more, we're learning more back in 1816 in a letter to his friend Samuel Kercheval. Yeah, really. I mean, he knew that we needed to change and adapt because you learned more. And he loved statistics. Wasn't called quite that then. Actuary tables, I believe. You know, that's what he was looking at. He loved looking at those kind of things, and the average age of populations and the demographics of peoples and around the world and in different countries and states and things like that. Jefferson loved that kind of stuff. But he was a polymath, and most of you are just barely even a math, barely even a monomath. There, I said it. But I have another gripe to say too, and I want to say this clearly to my veteran friends and compatriots out there. Did you not serve this country in defense of the Constitution of this country? But yeah, granted, it was originally written just for white men there in the continental U.S. at the time, the colonies. It was just framed for them originally. Didn't include women, didn't include any other minorities, didn't include any black people, didn't include anyone unless you were European men and men who own property. They just wanted people who own property to vote. At one point, that was a conversation that was had too, but they turned it down and they compromised on another issue that they shouldn't have compromised on because the people who had the big slave plantations in around the country in the different colonies, and they were in every state just about. They wanted to protect their investments and they wanted to be able to count them as part of the population so that you get the representation. They get more representation for in those small very sparsely populated counties, but they wanted to have better representation in Congress, so they demanded that we count the African population in the country, and they were counted back then. Yep, sure enough. And but those who didn't want to count them said, no, we have to figure out a three-fifths compromise. We'll just make that one person, that one black person, worth three-fifths of a person. Not a whole person, just three-fifths of a person. There were some really crazy people back in the founding days of this country. But you served for all Americans, did you not, as a veteran? Did you serve for all people in the country, all Americans? Or did you just serve for the ones who look like you and think like you and believe like you or worship like you or have the same political beliefs as you? Are those the only ones you serve for? There's a preacher out here today, Joel Weebon, Webbon. He believes that. Not that, not in that context. What he believes is only heritage Americans are real Americans. The rest, if you were naturalized here, no, that doesn't count. If you were born here, um, anytime after the Revolutionary War, you're not an American either. And that's what he thinks, folks. And people flock to these kind of thoughts and these kind of leaders out there. And I don't get it. I'm trying to help people see the errors of their ways. And you got Joel out there going, let's make America hate again. And you're going, he didn't say that. Yes, he did. He wrote it out on the Twitter feed. And that's what he believes. He also says empathy is wrong. It's unchristlike. Going, geez, I don't know which one of the Beatitude you read. It must have been the very first word. It says I. I don't know. Or the. Or you didn't get much beyond the first word. I'll tell you that. But so you got all that stuff going on in this country. But you, as an American veteran, I served for all of you. Did you not serve for all Americans? So if you didn't, take your darn DD 214 and give that thing back in or rip it up or something. It doesn't mean squat. You're a veteran. You serve for all Americans, whether they were naturalized here, whether they were born here recently or not recently, or whether they've been here since the 1630s and 40s, like my family. I mean, they're all Americans. There's no qualifications to be an American other than those things that are clearly spelled out in the Constitution and the amendments to the Constitution, which means naturalized here, born here, or whether you've been here for all your entire life. And well, not just that, but I'm saying born here, regardless if it's recent or way back then. You're still American. Joel doesn't think so. He's a preacher who defends Christian nationalism. Another variant, Christian nationalism is a variant of theocratic fascism. All you have to do is read Matt Walsh's pages over there or listen to Christopher Rufo. Christopher, I'm going to come up with a nickname for him. Somebody's been talking to me over on Twitter whose name is Desmond something. So, and he's a nutcase too. Doesn't believe in the science. He just wants to push a religious thing. And I have no use for that. Keep them separated. Jeez. It's like my church and my state. Keep them separated. But anyway, so yeah, it's been a week of Tuesdays today, and I've got a lot more to do this afternoon. I spent a lot of time this morning on the phone with my mom's insurance companies, and yeah, and so we're trying to make sure that she gets the care she needs in here. I found out that Humana actually has a program that is included within her policy type that does send her some completed meals. All you got to do is just warm them up in the microwave. I mean, she's paying for it. She's never been getting it. She's been on Humana for years, but that's been an option out there. She doesn't do anything with it. So I told him, yeah, go ahead and send that. I'm trying to take care of myself plus mom, brother, and sister, and checking on my cousins. So yeah, I mean, it's been fascinating and interesting, and I'm still dealing with a couple other issues, and not personal in that sense, but the thing that bothers me is that we have a lot of people out there who are trying to whitewash what Charlie Kirk said. They're trying to whitewash it. They're trying to make it smell better. But he is on record in his podcasts and in his statements and his different meetings and things. He is on record saying things in context. Put them in context. Yeah, there are some things when he poses rhetorical questions that come across as being, if you take it out of context, it can definitely be really, really incriminating. But put it back into context, then it's less incriminating. but still, though, I mean, We know who he is. He has been pushing a Christian nationalist view for years. For years. Christian nationalists, theocratic fascism. That's what that is. Christian nationalism is theocratic fascism. I don't, just go look it up. Folks, come on, stop already. That's exactly what it is. Matt Walsh will tell you that. Matt Walsh is the one going around out here saying, you need to round up all the trans people. Do it legally. He'll tell you, do it legally. Don't do it violently or anything like that. Adjudicate them, take them to a court of law, let the law system do it and deal with it, but arrest them and then find a reason to put them away. Uh-huh. That's what we're dealing with. And it's really powerful. It's just so draining. I mean, you got the person who killed Charlie Kirk was sincerely, deeply wrong. Not just wrong, but mentally unbalanced. But I can't tell you that for a fact because I am not the psychologist. I cannot tell you with any kind of definitive position that this person was mentally unbalanced or if he was just being a rational actor and he decided to go do this. He was being rational about it. He laid a plan out. He carried out that plan. He took care of it, carried it out. Sure enough, carried it out. So it was a rational plan to him. It wasn't just something haphazard. It wasn't just an act of violence that occurred randomly or spontaneously in the moment. No, this was thoroughly planned out. And he was wrong. It's wrong to take another human being's life in a case like that. There are cases where it's justified. The second boat of narco terrorists coming out of South America, blow them out of the water. I don't care. Sink them to the bottom of the ocean. They don't deserve due process. You want to know why? They have killed so many people. I would be the one to say, okay, that one right there needs to go away. I don't know who's on that boat, and they shouldn't be on that boat. They shouldn't be there bringing all those drugs into any other countries in the world. If we see it, it should be eliminated. I feel the same way about Hamas. Hamas is a terrorist organization operating in Gaza among Palestinians. Palestinian people, they don't have the power in and of themselves to take back their power from Hamas. Hamas embeds itself within the Palestinian people and endangers Palestinian people just so they can rack up points on the world stage with all kinds of people supporting them and defending them. I will not ever defend Hamas. It's unfortunate lives are lost in the process of eliminating them too, but they are a terrorist organization. They brought this on themselves. It is an abomination to allow them any voice in anything to do with Gaza or the Palestinian people. Just as it is wrong that Iran is involved in all of that stuff too. It's wrong that Yemen and the Houthis there in Yemen are involved in it too. Israel has a right to exist. They've had that right to exist for 3,000 years, more than 3,000 years. The Palestinians are the one who came in and took over and lived in that section of the land there in Palestine. They were there before. They were there doing all this other stuff with Israel and the Jewish nation and all that before. They were there. They were part of it. And there's been this anti-Semitism going on like that, and anti-Zionism going on since the 1000 BC, I think, or maybe even 1200 BC, 1250 BC, somewhere around there, during the first kingdom, the first big kingdom of Israel. So, no, I don't think I don't want the Palestinian people eliminated and wiped off the face of the earth. They have a right to live too. At some point, you got to rise up and take back your power from these people who are weaponizing their lives against you, who say that another group of people has no right to exist freely in this world. There are people in our own country who are pushing these things, like Nick Fuentes, like those who associate with Nick Fuentes, who are saying pointedly that we have no business supporting Israel, that they need to be eliminated. We've got those anti Semites here in this country, anti Zionists here in this country. We've had them here for a long they came here when we came. We brought that thinking with us from Europe and around the world. Sure did. There was a lot of anti-Semitism going on way back then. We brought it with us and planted it here and fed it, gave it water and food. Sure did. Sure did. We come by it from a long way back. Benjamin Franklin was one of them. And you're going, Benjamin Franklin? Yeah, Benjamin Franklin. He wrote a letter in 1754 while he was in Albany in New York, that state capital in New York. In 1754, he wrote a couple of letters during that period of time that are really poignant and really tell a lot about Benjamin Franklin. In that letter, he said the only people who need to be here in America, the continent of America, are Englishmen. You heard that right. He didn't want the Germans, he didn't want the French, didn't want the Italians, the Polish, the Russians. He sure did not want anyone from Greece or anyone from Turkey or anyone from the Middle East or anyone from Africa or India or China. He actually said in that letter that what would the Martians think if you look down upon the plains of America and it is blackened by all the swarthy people who we brought over here? Swarthy complexion, people who were not British, white, pale. Yeah, he wrote that in a letter, 1754. Letters from Albany. He never really changed very much. He just took it all the way to his grave with him. He found a different way to talk about it, though. He was much more political about it. But he was a very influential man in the formation of this country. So, he's the founder of the postal system. The one that the president today wants to actually demolish and turn over to private contractors. Yeah, they do want to do that. The other thing they're trying to do today, and I'm bringing all this back around, okay, the other thing that they're pushing for last night talking about Charlie Kirk from the White House. You had Vance speaking in his place on Charlie Kirk's podcast, doing a from the White House, sitting in that chair for Charlie. And then you had, let's see, you got Marco Rubio and Pete Hegseth and J.D. Vance and Pam Bondi. They're all trying to figure out ways. To, one, restrict freedom of speech. Because, if you can go around and tell people that they're assholes, really, they want to be able to arrest you, lock you away, especially if it's coming from a trans person or somebody they deem to be mentally unfit, and not a single one of them have a single concept of any kind of thing to do with psychology. Nah, none. None. So that's where we are today. I do need to run. I've got a lot of other things going on today before I settle in and come back tonight at 6. If you would, make sure you come back in tonight and watch the show this evening. I'll try to do some more talking about things that actually probably none of you care about. Going back to what I started the show with, talking about my cousin who passed away yesterday. Thoughts for her and her family. She's a very, very sweet, energetic person, always smiling and bubbly all the time, well made up. Look, she was always a really beautiful person inside and out. And so acknowledging that, and then spending time speaking with Angela Sheedy this morning. Also, we were talking about this Tyler Robinson, I think that was his name, the guy who assassinated Charlie Kirk, and his association with what the right wants you to believe are just trans people. And there are some trans people out there that Tyler Robinson was associated with, but the person he was living with was a variant of transgender person. He was more like a femboy, or what do you want to call that? FEE or FEMMEBOI, femboy, and furries. And basically, a furry is just someone who likes to dress up in animal outfits. They anthropomorphize the animal outfit kind of thing and dress up like that. And it really is shocking to see where that stuff goes. And We have been we have been the the owners of our own demise, folks, because we actually have yielded to some of this craziness out there. We sure have. We've let craziness slip in. I'm one for free speech. I'm one for making sure that people have their words heard and their lives heard and seen. I get it. I do. But if you're going to cosplay, whether that's furries or femboy stuff or drag queen stuff, even, do it on another dime. You're destroying the entire thing that has to do with LGBT people, okay? I've got no place for that anymore. There was a time when I would have just said, fine, 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 fine. But right now, what I am is a hillbilly, transgender, American veteran terrorist in the eyes of the right. And I just gave you a rundown of my day. I've got so much going on. I mean, I've got the people that I deal with over here in my life that I am responsible for. I have great respect and love for them, and I take care of them. That's this. Go check it out on my website. Go check the website out. Go check that out. Let's see, where is a good link for it. Let's try that one. www.cassandra-llc.com. It's a Kentucky for-profit limited liability corporation. We'll talk more about some nonprofit stuff tonight because JD Vance and all of them are they are putting a bullseye on nationally recognized nonprofit organizations, the 501c3s, 501c4s, and other types within the IRS tax code. They're putting a bullseye on them. You know what they're going to be doing? They're going to try to shut you down because you aren't abiding by their definition of what it means for civil rights. They're going to go after you because you aren't including people in your descriptions and in your organizing papers, people who aren't like you with a different ideological perspective or who believe differently, or they are coming for the nonprofits, folks. Erin in the Morning mentioned it yesterday in an article that she put out, Erin Reed with Erin in the Morning. But I told you guys this months ago that they have got a target on nonprofits. They will stop you. They're working on ways to do it now. And so this hillbilly from Eastern Kentucky, who happens to be one of those trans terrorists, whose daily life consists of caring for my family, I'm a danger. Oh no, you better watch out, folks. Oh gosh, yeah, you better watch out because you just never know who I'm going to come up and say, "Oh, how are you? Are you all right? What can I do for you today?" See, it's